Hey, Mark, welcome in. Thanks for coming.
Rob, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Mark, do you have any questions?
No, I was just, when I'm looking at different properties, I sometimes see land that is just, it's land, it's interesting, and just the way some of your Facebook posts and other people's, like, it's a gold mine no one touches. So just curious.
Yeah, certainly can be. It's definitely a tricky, nuanced gold mine.
Yeah, of
But
course.
but yeah, let me let me
I
see.
didn't have a chance to contact the brokers because I don't even know what to ask, because I
Yeah.
know there are nuances.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Is that
Uh,
cool?
yeah, that's cool.
All right. So tell me kind of give me a little bit more context here. So you have some parcels. I know that you messaged me with a few of those.
Yeah, I just saw those on Craigslist,
Okay.
and I
Cool.
didn't do anything with it.
All right. That's okay. Do you mind if I pull it up and then we kind of talk
No,
through it?
of course not.
Is that cool?
Yeah, of course not. Anybody can find that, really. So
Okay.
I'm not claiming it as mine.
Cool. That sounds good. Hi, Isabel. How are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome. Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome. Let's see here. All right. Let's pull this up. Cool. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Cool. So let's kind of talk through this a little bit. All right. So this looks like heavy load design for trucks. All right. For sale by owner. Cool. Cool, cool. Unpriced. Hmm. No wonder they haven't gotten much much action in 790 days. All right. Cool. So most people, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Most people when they see unpriced, they immediately just click to the next one because they're assuming that this person wants the world for it, right? That they want, thank you, that they want, an insane evaluation on it. They want so much money for it. So not inherently a bad thing, but just something to note here. It looks like interesting. So he has a pro. He's a pro, and also too that looks like a number. Let's just click on him here real quick. Uh-huh. Okay. Land specialist. Dude, why don't you have anything on? Why don't you have it listed for a price? Interesting. All right. So it looks like this guy really dabbles in the commercial land space, right? You see a lot of these where looks like there's bigger buildings around. This looks like a commercial lots, right? So it looks like he's a commercial land specialist. Cool, Mr. Graham. Awesome. I love it. All right. So if we go back to into here, so there's a few different things that you can kind of ask. Now, knowing that he's essentially, I don't want to call him a broker. Is he a broker? Yeah, he has his license number. So he's an agent or a broker, listing agent, broker. I guess I could just read that too and see that. But so he's a listing agent and broker. It sounds like maybe this is his own property, so something that he potentially owned on his own. So when we start looking at when we start looking at this, the first thing I'll look at right away, let's just see kind of like where are the photos in this? If they ever load, here we go. So we'll take a look and see the photos. Looks like, okay, a little existing substation. That tells me there's a lot of power there. There's your substation, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm going, huh, this looks like a big commercial development area. Kind of zoom out, looks like it's greater Houston area, kind of way up. It looks like eventually there's going to be a
Northeast. Yeah,
highway
northeast.
there. Yeah. So what I'm looking at this is knowing that commercial land is really, really challenging because the buyer for it is somebody who's going to develop it into commercial. So it's really, really tough. I buy very, 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 very selective commercial pieces of property that are normally half acre to 1 acre total. So 270 acres like this is for somebody who has like a master plan development in through there. Um, so this one's challenging. Can you do it? Yes, 100%. The next questions to ask, right? To answer your question, the next question to ask really on this is, okay, hey Grissom, like tell me like what's going on with this property here? Like what is it really like intended for? Looks like it's like a booming area, booming location. Looks like there's some schools around and it's fully development ready, three-phase power. Like, what's really the intention here on this type of zone or on this type of property, right? Located in an opportunity zone. Okay, great. But what does opportunity zone mean to them, right? That I would just kind of start gathering that type of information. Finding something like this is going to be challenging. And the main reason being because people who deal in this much land, especially in commercial spaces, that's all that they do, right? So this is going to be a really, really hard thing to talk to them about. Now make a call, make a phone call, just go see what happens, like I'm not a buyer for this. I don't know too many people who develop commercial just because commercial is a really tough niche space. Doesn't mean you can't find somebody who does, but it's just a very tough niche space. Normally, the people who are calling on this type of property for 260 or 270 industrial acres normally have done this many, many a times, right? So I don't want to off put you from it. However, the conversation is probably going to be pretty rough around the edges just because it's a very, very, very like niche buyer, right? Like if you want to put it into single family home, right? I would say, right, if you go find a house that's, we'll say, like Mark, where do you live? You live in Houston?
Yeah, I live not too far from there. So like
Okay,
Woodlands.
cool. Cool. So let me kind of explain a little bit about that, right? So if I say, hey, Mark, I want you to, if your criteria for a house, right, or if you're looking at a house, right, if you search houses that are $300,000 or more, we'll even say $200,000 or more, and it's in the greater Houston area, how many houses are you going to pull up? Like a bazillion.
Yeah.
Right? So think of that like a smaller, what we call infill lot, right? So think of it like a single family house lot, right? Where you would go, okay, I'm gonna, build on this small lot and I'm gonna create this house, right? That's kind of like your single family infill lot in the land space. If you go, well, I only want this zip code and I want this waterfront view and I want it facing the south so then I can get the southern exposure in the winter because that'll warm me up and I want that, right? But I only want that southern exposure on a lake in a specific zip code and I want this specific style of home, right? That's like maybe one or two houses, right? That's kind of the similar scenario that you're running into when you start looking at 270 industrial or commercial acres parcel. Does that kind of make sense? And I don't want to deter you away from it. I just want to be honest about it.
No, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like I had no attachment. It's more like, hey, I found
Yeah.
this depending on which I didn't look at your buy box until after I signed this. After I sent the messages and I got sent the link. So
Yeah. No, no, no problem at all. I'm not trying to be defensive at all. I just
yeah.
want to try and give you a better idea so then you can understand a little bit more like this is a probably really prime piece of land. It's probably very, very expensive. That's why it's unpriced, right? My guess, especially if it's an opportunity zone, it's probably like, I don't know, 8 to 9 figures, probably, right?
Okay.
It's in the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars for this piece of property, especially
Yeah.
if it's fully ready. Um, so it's just a very challenging buyer to find, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess
Yeah.
how can you tell what the use would be for? I know the different phases mean. I mean, I don't know the exact, but different phases means what it's ready for, or how far into or how raw it is. I guess the lower it is, the more raw the land is, right?
Meaning like, sorry, say that again.
So if like phase one means it's barely touched, and phase three means it's ready, fully ready type thing.
Yes, in most general sense, yes, 100%.
Okay.
Normally, when it's equipped with phase three power, normally that means a stronger power grid.
Okay.
And so like think of it like you can have like industrial and other things that require a heavy amount of power in through there, if that makes sense. So like think of it like diameter of cables, right? That's my understanding of phase three power. I'm not a developer, so I don't know 100% that whole world, but that's my understanding of it. Now, could that be wrong? For sure. But that's at least that's my understanding of it right off the bat. Yeah. So that phase three power. So like, would it be helpful if I kind of showed you maybe a way that you could potentially find some piece of land that might be a little bit more,
Yeah, for sure.
a
I
little bit
just like I
more.
was just looking at I was looking at RV park in that area, and then that popped up.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
there was another one that was 26 acres right off of a major highway. And there's a big subdivision behind. I
Okay.
sent that one too, and message.
Is that one? Let me pull it up here.
That was the other one I sent. I don't know if
Okay.
it's any different.
Let's take a look at it.
And essentially, I gotta look at the property type to see what it could be used
Excuse me.
for. Like industrial means it's probably like commercial
Yeah. So think of industrial. Industrial is normally more like um, industrial is more like your Target, your Walmart, your warehouses, your Amazon warehouses, your Chick-fil-A's, your McDonald's, right? Like that is industrial. Industrial really is like manufacturing and warehouses. That's truly what industrial is. Commercial is kind of everything that I just explained, right? Anything that's not residential, if that makes sense. Kind of makes sense a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Sorry, it's just I'm
Okay.
in the airport, so it's a little loud, so I mute myself. That way,
No, that's all good.
the Zoom isn't ruined. So
Yeah, that's all
if you
good.
if you go to June 25th at 3 p.m., that's the link that I was talking about. That one I know is pretty much probably the same with it being 695 acres.
Let me see. Let me just take a super quick look. Yes. Yep. Same thing there. Yep. Prime frontage, land cleared. Okay, here. Well, let's talk about this one. Let me pull it up. Because this one has a little bit of a different twist to it, right? And this is kind of the really cool part about land is that you can have so many different exit strategies, right? So this first parcel, let me pull that back up again. All right. So this first parcel here, all right, you can kind of see in there. All right. So you can see there's a road already there, which is awesome, right? A whole bunch of road,
Yeah,
even a little roundabout, which tells me, you can jump off and, make a road through here. No, it looks like kind of land clearing, but not really a ton, if that makes sense, right? It looks like
yeah,
there's still kind of some trees and everything in there. Then we look at this one, right? And he even says land cleared, right? So in this one, you can kind of see, right? All the trees are already knocked down, right? A whole bunch of forest, and then looks like they already knocked down all the trees. So sometimes, and it depends scenario, but sometimes what can happen is you can actually add value by clearing out trees, right? So essentially you're just making it one more step down the road, right? So my guess is that this probably has, yeah, power to property line, right? So power's there, water's there, sewer's there, everything is there in the path of growth. Okay, great, awesome. Everyone says that to try and sell their piece of land. But then it says land cleared, right? So land cleared versus this one still has trees and everything.
yeah,
So that is a cost that is going to also to like help value add because it's one less thing that somebody has to do. It's one less thing that the developer has to do in order to get up and over that hurdle.
yeah.
That makes sense.
It does.
So that's kind of another good opportunity or another good like idea of how you can add value to it, right? Normally, this person who cleared the land probably got this land at a much lesser price. went to go clear the land to try and add even more value, and then now is trying to sell it for $7.68 million, right?
Yeah.
But another really good example of like different exit strategies, right? Where you can exit at different places, right? If that first parcel that we looked at, this one, if he cleared the land, and of course it's unpriced, so it doesn't help us, right? Let's just say, for example, he's selling it for $20 million right now. I have no idea. I could be totally off. I could be super low, I could be super high. I don't know. I don't know the area without looking deeper into it. So let's say he's selling it right now as it sits for $20 million. If he goes and clears all those trees, and that might cost him $100,000 to do, but he might now be able to sell that for $25 million, right? So there can be yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, it's that big of a land. It's probably going to cost more than $100,000 to clear that. It's probably going to cost $1 million, but he might end up getting $5 million onto the purchase price, right? So different ways that you can attack that. The commercial, yes, the prices are much higher because you can build businesses and those can be profitable and all that behind it. That's just something that I'm not personally into, but it's a no, whole nother like niche area that you can look at. Um,
Yeah, if you want to
let's
show me what you're into, that way if I run across it or stumble across it, I can always do it like you're
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, cool. Do you want to talk about this one or do you want to talk about like how to find some other properties?
find some other properties that are more in line with, with
Yeah,
what you do.
absolutely. This is a big old track, by the way. We get
Yeah.
we maybe we circle back to that. All right.
Okay.
So there's a few different ways that we can go about it. All right. I'm just going to let's take a look at let's go somewhere here in Kentucky. All right. And we'll go right outside of what is this? Lexington, Kentucky. All right. So I'm just on Zillow. All
Okay.
right. I'm gonna go for sale. Not worried about the price. The bed and bath won't matter in 2 seconds. All right. We're gonna deselect all. We're gonna hit lots and land, right? And then hit apply. Because I want to see what type of land is available out there for sale. All right. In the filters, this is also the other important potential piece for it. All right. One thing to know is that if it is listed on market, it's really hard to buy it for enough of a discount in order to be able to resell it. Right.
Hmm.
Think of it like buying a house on market and then trying to resell it on market again. Right.
Yeah.
It becomes very challenging. Right. So, one thing that we can do is we can take off agent listed. Holy cow, everything disappears,
Yeah.
right? We can also take off new construction potentially. I mean, you can leave that on. It shouldn't filter anything in there, but we'll just try it. And then let's go to active coming soon, Zillow preview. That's new. Okay, cool. And then I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna go to lot size. Because I want a certain size of lot, right? It takes the same amount of work to buy and sell a 400, 500 square foot lot that it takes to do a 50-acre lot. All right.
That big work, you're just getting paid.
Almost the same difference, right? So in this case, let's look for 5 acres or more. Actually, let's look for 20 acres. We're going to look for a subdivide property. All right. 20 acres. I'm not going to put a max on there because I mean, if there are massive parcels, let's check them out. All right. And then if you want, you can go days on Zillow and you can go and drag it out a few kind of longer, right? Longer, potentially more motivated to sell. All right. So I'm just going to leave it at any for right now. So what I'm looking at is lot size 20 acres, owner listed. All right. And then I'm gonna hit apply. And it looks like we got one, and it's an auction. Of course, that's probably gonna be probably a bad example. Let me try and find another example here. We might have to zoom out a little bit. Here you go. Let's go into Tennessee here. All right, we got a few in here. All right, let's take a look at this one. $300,000. Awesome. All right. Usable land. Building site, pond. All right. All right, I gotta take off auctions. We keep getting hit with the auctions. Hold on one second. We're gonna take off auctions. Wow, there's a whole lot of auctions in there. I'm just curious what this one is now too. Interesting. Okay. So auctions, the challenging piece with auctions is that that land normally goes too close to market value in order for somebody to make money on it. And it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just something where, like I'm in business because I do need to pay bills and mortgage and stuff like that, right? I'm not immune to that, but this is also to what I do for a living, right? So I buy and sell land. I buy it for lower and sell it for higher, right? And essentially take that spread. And that's a very normal thing to do. People just have to be understanding and understand that that's part of the process, right? Or that's part of my job, right? Let's take this piece of land, for example. All right, so here's one. All right, first thing I want to take a look at the photos. Looks kind of nice. Very wooded, right? Looks like some woods. 87 acres, 500,000. Ooh, we got a lot of deer. Got some deer, got some really nice deer, a whole bunch of turkeys. Cool. So this looks like it's kind of like a hunting piece of land, right? They're kind of advertising as more of a hunting piece of land with all the deer and 87 acres. All right. So what I'm going to look at right now, I'm now going to look at what they have in here for the description. So they do a pretty good job of describing it. Region is surveyed, unrestricted, endless possibilities, blah, blah, blah. Property features a balance, timber, blah, blah, blah. Water tap installed, several building sites, electric available, new paved road at the property entrance, right? Land taxes are in the green belt. So he or she already knows that in here, they're already hitting on the big things. They know that there's several building sites. That's a value add. They know that there's a water tap installed. That's a value add. There's electricity available. I don't want to call it a value add, but that's a bonus, right? Like these are all things that like add to the value of it, right? So really, this is a proven hunter's paradise, right? So he or she is setting this one up to try and sell to somebody who wants to build a cabin or essentially hunt on the land. All right. The other thing I'll take a look at too is I'll go into the map, I'll go into lot lines, right? And I'm going to see if I can zoom out a little bit. I'm not going to be able to. So normally what I want to try and see, the lot lines aren't drawn in here. Shoot. Normally what I want to see is, normally they have like boxes around, so you can kind of see how much like road frontage there is in that sense. And that can be a really good way to determine if it's a possible subdivide. So in this case, it doesn't really look like that. It's just that one main road. And it looks like that might expand back. All right. So now, how do we tell if he's in the ballpark? Right? So we go, okay, cool. Looks feasible enough. Looks like something that might be of interest. Well, how the heck do we tell if 500,000 is what it's worth, right? Well, it's been 271 days on the market. He has 273 views and 31 saves. All right. It's been on the market for a long time. Long, long time. All right. And it looks like the views, 270 views for 270 days. That's one per day. That's not very much. However, his views to saves, he has 31 saves. So normally if you're within 10%, that's normally a good ratio or a good marker that there is some interest in there. This just tells me that he's priced too high, right? Because if he had 10% of 273 would be 27 views or 27 saves, and he has 31. So that's a good thing. So we know that there's some demand there. 271 days. Let's take a look and see. Okay, here you go. So it looks like you listed it, you removed it, you listed it again. So it looks like he's kind of been back and forth for, man, wow, of 2025. So he's been trying to list this for over a year and a half, over a year and a half now. So that tells me one of two things without calling him. He either knows his number, wants his number, and that's it, or he's out here fishing for something to see if somebody's will pay that price in it. All right. So what I'm going to do now is let's see if he's even close. Let's see if he's even close price wise. All right. So we're going to take 500,000. We're just going to round up. All right. 500,000. We're going to divide that by 87. And what that's going to give us is the price per acre. All right. So price 500,000 divided by 87 acre price per acre. That price per acre, let me grab a post-it note so I don't mess this up. Post-it note is $5,747 per acre. Not bad. All right. Now, we know that his property is 5,700. Let's go try and see if we can figure out if this is way overpriced or way underpriced. What we're going to do is it's pretty simple. We're going to go to Zillow and we're going to flip it to sold. Holy moly, there's a whole bunch of land around here. All right, let's find where that for sale is. I'm gonna kind of center it in my screen here. And I'm gonna go sold. All right, land, 20 acres still. Okay, great. Awesome. So now let's start sniffing around. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do one other thing too. All right. So if he has 80 acres, I'm actually gonna bump this up to 50 acres. The main reason being is generally speaking, the less acres you have, the higher price per acre goes up. All right. So if you have more acres, think of it like Costco, right? You buy more things, you buy 2 gallons of milk and you get it for two-thirds of the price of two, right? You know, you get it for a discounted price, right? Versus if you buy each one individually, you still have 2 gallons of milk, but it now costs you essentially double the price, right? So I want to find like for like properties. All right. So let's go over here and let's look at this 590, 595. Okay. So this already has buildings on it. I'm already going to discount it out because it has buildings on it. That's going to increase the value. All right. Here's 106,000. Whoa. Why is it so cheap? Let's see when this sold to. Oh, it didn't sell. Oh, it sold in 2024. Okay. This is one other thing that I need to do. We're going to go into filters. We're actually going to go sold in the last, let's start 12 months because that gives us a more accurate snapshot of how much the price is. Because price of land fluctuates just like milk, just like gasoline, it goes up and down. All right. Let's take a look at this one. 106 acres, so slightly bigger. Ooh, that's a really pretty view. Has a little gate there. It looks like it's off of a paved road, which is just like ours. This little hunting stand here tells me that there's hunting in there. Looks like there's some ATV trails, a crappy shed. I'm not sure I would really add much value for that, if I'm being totally honest. A little picnic table. This for sure is another hunter's property, right? There's a little shack, right? There's a picnic table, there's a little shack, there's a little watering pond, some ATV trails, there's a little hunting stand there. I think this is probably a pretty good comp, right? To take a look at how much this land is actually going for. So let's do 352, 500 divided by 106. 106.55. We'll get really detailed. All right. So this comp is selling for $3,308 per acre. So we went from 57 to 3,300. So I like that. That's a good comp. It's also two on the same side of the highway, which can certainly be important. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now, this one's on the other side of the highway, so this one might be a little bit more out of it, but let's take a look and see what we have here. All right, so this looks like farmland, tillable farmland, maybe some cattle pasture. Ooh, has a nice little water feature, has a creek. That creek is going to be that's going to increase that value. Increase, so anytime you have water feature, anytime you have buildings, that's going to up the value of it. Something like this, a pasture, you can build a house on. You could theoretically hunt on it if you wanted to, but you can build a house. You can have livestock out there. You could potentially turn that into like tillable land, meaning cropland and stuff like that. So there's a lot more uses for it. It's going to go for a higher price point. So I'm not sure this is really a good comp either because it's not quite the same. Let's pan out a little bit more. Let's just go across the highway and check this out. Whoa, 510 acres. That's huge. No, this isn't it. This is sweet though. Little like cavern there. That's not going to be a good one because that one is it's massive, 510 acres for 800,000. That's somebody got a really good deal. So essentially I'm just looking around here. That doesn't look like it because it's open land again. Um, Man, this is in Tennessee now. So now we cross the border. So this one is a little bit more challenging to comp, right? Maybe we go in here and we take a look. Here we go. Maybe this looks like something that we might be interested in or something similar. This is all woods again. So let's take this one. We'll just throw this one in there. We'll give us another number here. 330. I can already tell you this one's going to be really low. Divide by 107 acres. So this one is 3,084 per acre. All right. So from our two comps, right, we have 3,084 per acre and we have 3,300 per acre. So when we go back to our lovely piece of land here, why do you think it hasn't sold? Oh, I can't hear you.
Overpriced by about 2,000 per
Yeah,
acre.
overpriced by about 2,000 per acre, right? So this guy is exactly probably what we were thinking of. He's just thrown out there, and if anyone is silly enough to pay it, he'll sell it and go buy his neighbor's property, 130 acres for the same price. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where we look at that. Is it still worth a phone call? Yeah. See, you never know. Situations may have changed. My guess is, this guy, let's see here, when was the last time? I mean, it's May. You never know. I mean, things might have changed, and all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I do need to get rid of it. I just haven't bothered to update it. X, Y, Z, blah blah blah. You never know. People can certainly change their mind and change how they view things, how they sell things. It's totally totally dependent. But does that make does that kind of help you a little bit, Mark, as to kind of like how to find something, how to like take a quick like temperature check and see if it's actually like worthwhile
Yeah,
in looking at it?
yeah, it does.
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of go and try and find these pieces of land. Like here's $6 million for 610 acres.
Ooh.
We got we got your airport music going there. Sorry. Um, but yeah, so here's 610 acres. Like this is absolutely gorgeous for 6 million bucks. You know, maybe is this worth? I mean, it's listed, yeah, by Mossy Oak Properties. Yeah. So somebody who's trying to sell hunting on it, but yeah. So hopefully that kind of helps out as to how to kind of just go about finding stuff. You can kind of stumble across some of these things. But you can also too, I mean, it's more just a searching game. I call it, seek and destroy really. Trying to figure out what you can find and then, start talking with property owners. One of the best ways too to look for properties is if you drive by something. Because there are so many landowners who will just stick a sign out there and just say, yeah, for sale. And then, they're paying 100, 200 bucks in taxes a year on it. Like it really could, they could care less about it. It's more just a matter of, if it sells, it sells. If not, not. But lots of different ways to find that. Zillow's one way. You can go to realtor.com. You can go to homes.com. There's another website called land.com. And you can try and find land on here. Here, buy land. Yeah, and same filters, right? You can come in here and you can start looking and change different, like here's all sorts of different properties that you kind of want to do. Um, I will say that there are a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different places that you can go look for this. This is just one way to try and filter that out. If you want to be really, really specific, we can certainly talk about like how to find like a property that you might be able to subdivide, right? That might be something too to take a look at because those deals tend to get you can pay much closer to market value on because you're going to buy a chunk of land and you're going to chop it up and make it more affordable for more people to try and enjoy a little slice of land on. So that might also too be another really good option to talk about too. And I'm happy to talk about it unless anyone else have a question, or Mark, do you have another follow-up question for that? I'm happy to answer anyone's question. You guys have a parcel or anything? I don't want to hear myself talk for the whole hour, guys. You guys got to help me out a little bit.
I have stuff, but I'll be more prepared next time.
That's okay. That's
Yeah,
all right.
I was just looking at stuff, but now I've got a little bit more to work with. But
Yeah.
no, I appreciate these office hours. These are great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming too. Is there any
Yeah.
particular question or like, is there a hiccup that I can, or like kind of a stopping point where I can kind of help you break through that to try and
Well,
help find some land?
the thing is, like I live in Montana, so I'm
Yeah.
it's obvious it's pretty expensive here, but I'm trying to find like off market land deals, if that's even possible,
Hmm.
around Kalispell or even near Eureka, Northwest Montana.
Yeah.
And I did find one which I'll bring out just to get more information, but there's two parcels of 10 acres each. That's 20. And it's all a family probate situation. The probate's done, but I really want to try to get the other 10 acres, which is behind public land. But I'm just trying to wait. I'm trying to see if I haven't really negotiated yet, but I'd want that back parcel. But the other two family members are really motivated to sell theirs. So it's
Hmm.
really trying to figure out how to get the prize parcel. But I'll have
Yes.
more information to add, like to explain it all next week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not a problem. I mean, I'm the whole point of office hours is to try and help people, educate people, help them try and get over that like help them get that
Yes.
next step towards whatever deal they're working towards, right?
So
Um,
for off market leads, do you
mhm.
use like land portal or like how do you get any?
Yeah, of course. So great question. Yes, so I use a variety of different ways. My main piece for market marketing, off-market marketing. I had to really think about that one today. Off-market marketing is mail. So I normally use mail. I pull lists from Land Portal and Land Insights. And if you guys aren't familiar with these are land-specific software. This is Land Portal here. You can essentially go in there and you can, find whatever piece of land is. I'm just going to pull up like here's somebody's piece of land right in here, right? And so you can essentially come in here and pull this person's line. You say, hey, I want to know anyone who lives in Antelope, Kansas, right? That has 40 or more acres Great. And then it'll pull up all the parcels at 40 more acres. I can filter it out and I'll kind of filter out a few more things. And then I will send my mailings to very specific like lists in that sense. So a few of the filters that I look at are how long they owned it, right? If they're out of state owner, they tend to have a little bit more impetus to sell potentially. I'll also to look at like out of county or out of zip code. Normally I'll go out of state more than times than not. Um, and I'm looking for, normally when I'm mailing, I'm actually looking for subdivides. So I'm looking for a certain minimum amount of road frontage. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and I'll look up the county rules and regulations on that. And then I'll say, okay, this parcel right here has X number of feet of road frontage. And I need so much right here. Let me go into Land Insights because they do a better job, I think, of I'm just gonna run into a county here in the Midwest because it's much easier in the Midwest because everything's squared. All right, let me find a good example. Here we go. All right. So I'm trying to find one that doesn't have two. These are all squared out. You're killing me, Kansas. All right. All right. We're just gonna pretend, okay? We're gonna pretend something here. All right. Here we go. So we're gonna take this parcel and we'll take this parcel. All right, but let's focus in on this parcel. So right now, I'll take a look at it and I'll go, okay, I want a county and I want it to have, this one only has 258 feet of road frontage, right? So if I say, hey, my minimum road frontage is 400 feet, this won't show up. And if I'm looking at a subdivide, which is oftentimes what I'm trying to market towards when I look at mailings, is I'm going, okay, this county will allow me to subdivide this piece of land. Let's say it's 250. Let's say then it's 125 feet per parcel. All right. So if I take 260, we'll just take it's sorry, 2060. I was like, how is it so little? All right. Let me zoom in. Okay. So let's take a subdivide, for example. All right. I feel like I'm doing a really poor job of explaining. Let me back up. When I look at marketing, I'm looking at mailing, and what I'm doing is I'm looking for very, very, very specific pieces of land. And in my marketing, I'm looking at pieces that we can subdivide. All right. So if I take this total parcel right here, all right, I'm just going to draw it out super quick so we know how many acres we have here. All right. 159. That's a huge block. That's a huge block. All right. So 159 acres total is what we have in here. And so I might say, hey, I want to market to this person, right? They have 159 acres. They have 2,600. I'm going to roughly estimate this. All right. They have 2617, but I'm going to say they have 2,600 feet of road frontage. All right. And let's say the county allows me to subdivide this into 4 parcels. All right. So if we go 2,600, I'm just going to take kind of simple math here. We're going to go 2,600 divided by 4 is 650. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at parcels like this and I'm going to go, okay, cool. This parcel would be of interest. And I know that if I have 650 feet of road frontage, I can subdivide that 4 different times in this county. All right. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to get my 650 feet. And I'm just going to draw a little box here, if you will. Perfect. So there's my first parcel that I'm going to subdivide into. All right. I'm going to do the same thing over again. So let's go to 650. If I can hold my mouse steady enough. 650. All right. Cool. So now I have All right, so now I have my two, nope, don't want to show who that is. So now I have my two parcels, right? I'm gonna go ahead and rinse and repeat that two more times here because I'm drawing out how I could potentially subdivide this. And then one more. Awesome. All right, so here is what I could potentially subdivide it into. All right. So because it has this road frontage and because the county, this is all theoretical, because the county allows me to split a parcel into four different pieces, and at a minimum, let's say they must have 500 feet of road frontage, so 650 feet on each parcel, checks the box, cool, we can now, they have the potential to approve it, right? Now, there's a lot that goes into it past this. However, initially, when looking for parcels, this is kind of how I would look at one. And I go, okay, cool. Instead of 159 or 160, I forget how many acres it was, 157 acres. Instead of that, right, which would probably have to be like over $1 million, I'm assuming. I could be totally wrong. I don't know how much money, how much land in Kansas is worth versus Kentucky. All right, but let's say that all of these, that let's say that 157 acres was worth $1.57 million dollars. So that's 10,000 per acre. We're just going to make math really, really simple. Okay. 10,000 per acre when it's at that huge, huge chunk. All right. As you get into smaller chunks, generally the price per acre goes up, right? So instead of 10,000 per acre, maybe at 40,000, maybe we're now all of a sudden able to go up to, let's say, 15,000 per acre, right? And so if we have 40 acres times 15,000, that's 600,000, right? Now that's still a lot of money, or it can be a lot of money, right? However, if somebody's looking at $1 million versus $600,000, $1 million, there's a very, very finite, small amount of buyers for that. 600,000, it's a little bit more, right? And if you could make it even like less money per lot, you could potentially have a much bigger pool of buyers, right? So in this case, right, 600,000 times the four, right? This is all theoretical math, right? You could potentially sell all these parcels combined before you, I mean, this is all gross sales at $2.4 million, right? So you took it from $1 million and you went to $2.4 million, which I know sounds like crazy, right? You're like, whoa, $1.4 million difference. And see Mark smiling over there, right? So now it's like, man, that's crazy. That can be a lot of money. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of risk that you have to do, right? Subdividing it like this would probably cost you 50,000-ish to be able to do all that, right? Now, 50,000 compared to 1.4 million, not bad. But then also too, you also have potentially county hearings, planning, zoning meetings, tech committees, perk tests that you have to get done. There's a lot of risk into it. There's a lot of money that you can make out of it, but there's also a lot of risk and a lot of upfront money that you have to do. Um, I'm in the middle actually of putting in kind of negotiating back and forth on a subdivide, and I'd be happy to show you guys once I get that contract locked up and we figure all that out. But it is an on-market piece of land that I found on Zillow. I was just kind of stumbled across it on Zillow, and I looked up everything that we needed to do. So I looked up the zoning requirements for the county. I looked up and talked with the planning committee, talked with the tech committee, gave them kind of drew this out, sent an email over to them to see like, hey, is this even feasible? What are we zoned? And once we figured all that out, I go, oh, this is actually is a good potential in this. And so now we're negotiating back and forth to try and figure out on price and terms and stuff like that. But once that's there, I'm happy to explain kind of what I'm looking at doing and kind of how I'm looking at doing it. And then, what's something like that on average, right? What you can buy it for versus what you can sell it for, and kind of everything in between. I'm happy to kind of explain that as well. But this is what's called a minor subdivide, right? So you're not putting in any roads, you're not putting in any houses on it, no cul-de-sacs, no nothing. All you're doing is you're taking the bigger chunk of land and cutting it up into a few different smaller parcels. So that's called a minor subdivide. So hopefully that kind of helped. Something like this would be like what I'm more looking for. So if there's something, I mean, this is a very extreme example. Cutting up into 40-acre chunks like this is a pretty extreme example. Um, Generally speaking, those subdivides are probably more like an acre to 5, 10 acres normally, is normally what they break down to. But the biggest thing I'm looking for, and this is something also too that you guys can look for on Zillow, is pieces of property that are for sale like this, and that they have a lot of road frontage. Big bonus if they have road frontage on two sides, because now I can subdivide it up and down. I can also subdivide it across too, right? So I can go up and down, subdivide it that way. I can also go across, right? So you kind of have two different ways that you can kind of slice the pie if you have more road frontage. Does that help?
Yeah, it
Again,
does.
I feel like I've been talking a lot. I feel like I need more interaction with you guys. I need you guys to ask me more questions.
I have some questions.
Fire.
So I, well, I have a few things that I'm thinking about or looking at.
Hmm.
I live in Arizona and in Alaska.
Nice.
The
What a
military,
dichotomy.
yeah, I got really cold and decided Arizona was where it
I
was
love
at
it.
in the winter.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming to office hours too. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad I caught some of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in Alaska, the military bases are growing like exponentially,
Uh-huh.
and they don't have enough housing. So there's kind of like this little boom going on. But there's like this one um that's like 10 acres. I got it pulled up here. It's 10.86 acres,
Okay.
$169,000. And so like as you were talking about like splitting it up or whatever, but this
Mm-hmm.
is just right outside one of the Air Force bases.
Awesome.
So like a few of the ideas like split it up or, build a bunch of fourplexes on it with housing or maybe a little bit of both. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like the biggest thing that stops me from like going anywhere is just funding because I don't know. I don't have the money, they want all this money down as far as the
Of
bank
course.
goes.
Of
And
course.
so I haven't found, I don't know. I'm just nervous to call and I'm not a salesperson, so I don't know how to
Sure.
like communicate terms like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
So
that's kind of
number one, you don't have to be a salesperson. Number one, you don't have to be a salesperson, right? I know personally, I don't like feeling like a salesperson. That's not my jam. I get uncomfortable with it. I don't like it. I will call
okay, good.
anyone, but when it comes to like the sales piece of it, it's the piece that I like the least, if that makes sense, right? I much rather build a relationship, and then if it works out, like it works out, let's do it, right? Um, so don't feel like you have to sell them or pitch them on something,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because you don't necessarily have to, right? Really think about it as you're just gathering intel, right? You're gathering information on it. Hey, tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about this. How does this work? Right? People always say, be genuinely curious, right? Hey, like, if I wanted to develop on this, has anyone ever thought about developing it? It seems like it's a pretty prime thing, pretty prime location, like right next to the Air Force Base. Has anyone ever thought about developing on it? More than likely, if that ever crossed their mind, they would have already done it. And that's something that I think took me a really long time to like get over, right? Was, well, I don't want to like put ideas into their head, right? And you're like, well, I don't want to do that. But also too, somebody then finally explained to me and was like, well, have you ever thought that they probably already thought of all this before they even listed it for sale? I'm like, no, I did not think about that in that way, right? So they probably already have all listed all that and whatever. And if all of a sudden you give them a big bright idea and they want to go develop it, more power to them. There's so many fish in the sea, right? I don't want you to get married to a deal. Now, is it local? Is it convenient? Yes, 100%. That's super nice, right? However, you have to be able to also understand that, hey, like you own this land, it's fine, totally fine, all cool. I'll give you kind of a short story about that as well, or a short example of it. The subdivide that I'm negotiating with, the gentleman is an investor, right? And it's on market. So I called the agent, and the agent, we had a good conversation back and forth. Hey, tell me about this property. What's going on? Looks like it's a nice piece, right? Looks like there's some potential cropland in there, right? Like, are there crops in there? Have they rented that out? What does that go for? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, like, has he ever thought, about like a possibility of subdividing it? And he's like, oh yeah, no. He's like, the agent was like, oh yeah, I told the seller that he should subdivide this and he would get a much better price. He just doesn't want to. He just said, just list it. I just want to get rid of it. Sweet, right? And that's, I just purely asked, hey, is any seems like it might be able to subdivide. Is there, it seems like there's a lot of lots going on over there. Is that something that's been of interest and, whatever it is. And he was like, yeah. And then eventually the agent literally told me, this is how you should subdivide it. Subdivide it like this, and this. You have to go to the zoning committee and then the planning committee in this county and make sure you talk to XY, this lady, and then make sure you also talk to this guy because he's going to be your surveyor because he's the only one who does surveys around here. And he was literally laying out the entire playbook for me as to what I need to do in this market that was new to me, where he's literally laying out the entire process, right? And that's purely just by asking. I'm like, well, why doesn't the owner do this? And also too, why don't you do it? Right? Like you, the agent, if you just mentioned that you had a whole bunch of investment properties, why wouldn't you do it too? He's like, yeah, right? You just never know, right? And so,
Yeah.
when you start looking at pieces of land and properties like that, like, hey, have you ever thought about developing this? Has anyone ever developed it? Can it be developed? Right? Like, you know, I would even start there. Like, do you happen to know, like, would this pass soil tests? Is it able to be developed? See what they say, and you can say different things in different ways to kind of steer conversation or to, kind of ask what you're wanting to ask without telling them exactly what your plan is if you want to go that route too. But I would encourage you just go call them, check and see what's going on with it, right? And be like, hey, like seems like, this might be kind of a good thing, right? Like let's, what about the development piece of it? And then if your next question, Casey, is I don't know how to tell if it can be built multifamily or if I can subdivide or whatever, like come on here. Like I'm happy to review that. You can come here to office hours if you want. If you don't want to do that here, you can always send it to me offline as well too. That's totally fine. Um, my goal is to try and help you guys, right? And like learn along the way. I'm learning, you guys are learning. Eventually I'm going to find something really I am finding things that are really cool and I'm learning about different areas and I love looking at maps and I love talking about land, talking dirt or dirty if you guys like that from some of the posts. Um, and so that's really the goal, right? Is to try and help overcome some of that hurdle and like, hey, what's your biggest hurdle right now? Great. Let's take a step over that. Okay, now what? Right? And then just one step at a time. And eventually what happens is you start getting down the road where you start doing, oh, well, now I know how to take it from step one to step 12, but oh crap, now what? Right? Like, contract time. Now what? Right? Like that's where, a lot of people get hung up, right? Okay, cool. I met the seller. I talked with them. We agreed on price and terms. Everything's good. Okay, what about this contract? I have no idea what to do. Right? And so like that happens. And so it's like, okay, cool. Come on in. Like, let's talk about a contract. Let's talk about the next steps. Let's talk about how do you use your resources for it. But go talk to them. Just pick up the phone, just see what's going on. Worst thing that they do is they say, yeah, not really in. Okay, fine. Then they hang up on you, right? That's the worst case scenario. Then what do?
Yeah.
You call them back the
So
next day and you ask them the same questions until they get you the answer, right? And if they don't want to sell it, they don't want to sell it, right? So that's kind of how I see it. You had a question though. Go ahead.
So what about the financing? So I own an accounting firm, like I'm in kind of a numbers gal. So that's
Yeah.
automatically my first stress is okay, well, I don't have enough to go through a bank with a down payment, it's like 50 grand or whatever.
Mhm.
So that I feel like that's my biggest hurdle. And same
Sure.
with the other, my next question, if there's time, I guess we're out of time, but
I got a few more minutes. I have until 1:15 here. So I got another about 10 minutes or so. So let's talk about it, right? What's your other question besides the finance? Because I can answer that one.
okay, so that's one. And then you guys were talking about like off deals that aren't listed.
Hmm.
So in Arizona, there's 5 acres right behind us that I would like to purchase and subdivide, and then I can have the one that's right behind me
Yes.
versus somebody buying them all. And it's in a growing area, like,
Hmm.
but yeah, so I think the same guy owns the whole or company or I don't know who owns it, but
Awesome. Okay,
like how
cool.
do you approach people off that aren't
Off
listed?
market? Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Okay, let's talk about the financing question first, right? So financing, always, always, always a concern of people, right? Including myself, right? I want to make sure that if I go into a contract, that if I have funds that I'm able to essentially use and utilize and deploy and go through the contract, right? There's a few different ways. Number one is that happy to help finance some of that, right? Some or all of it, depending on what it is and depending on the structure of it. So I'm certainly happy to help. Another way is partnering with a developer, especially if you're going and planning on doing development with it. Do you know a developer in Alaska?
Um, I mean, I could find
Kinda.
one. Yeah, like I have a client that made a subdivision. I and my husband is an
Okay.
electrical contractor, like he knows how to do a lot of stuff
Okay.
like that. So,
Awesome. Cool. So maybe you gather some of that information. And then if they're a developer, and if they've been developing for any amount of time, they have relationships with banks because there's no way that you can I shouldn't say there's no way. There's not many ways that you can develop without a bank, right? And so you can get construction loans for 70, 80, 90% of the construction cost, right? So there are different ways that you can definitely get that. And
mhm.
you can potentially rely or lean, I shouldn't say rely, you can lean on those developers a little bit more heavy and say, hey, I can get this piece of land if you can cover the cost of construction. And then we'll split the profits on the back, right?
Okay.
And whenever you get something like that, that's going to be much more appealing. And then you can start looking for funders. Even better if you can get something on like seller finance or something like that, where you can pay as you go, or say, we were looking actually at there was a whole bunch of different parcels, about I think it was like 15 parcels, and we were looking at buying a GC company out in Montana, actually. And essentially what happened was he was willing, he owns all the pieces of land free and clear, and he was willing to allow us to build on them, and then we'd pay him on the back end. And so we had no money into the land. We were gonna utilize a construction crew to go get leverage and essentially get a construction loan. We're going to utilize a local GC and his relationship with banks to go do that. And we were going to be the people who brought the deal together and kept it together in order for it to go all the way through, right? So when you start looking at that, we literally had zero money out of pocket. Now, the deal ended up not working out because of a few different things. His wife got cancer, and then and that's why he wanted to sell. And then she had like I think it was like a 25% chance of living, and she made it, which is phenomenal. Like it's the best possible reason to pull your business back off the market and continue working if you want. And so, anyways, she's live and healthy now, which is amazing. And so he's like, hey, I don't think I really want to, like, I kind of want to get back to normal, but maybe in a year or two I'll sell. Great. Awesome. Give us a call then where we'll be interested. We'll certainly be happy to talk. Like, let's continue the conversation then or whenever you're ready. Right. So there are ways where you can get that financing piece of it. If it's a good deal, Cassie, there will be people who will fund it. The hardest part is finding somebody who understands land and who knows what's a good deal and what's not. Because banks will look at you and they'll go, well, I'll give you about 30% of the value.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like,
Like I've called around to some banks. So then I don't make the call to whatever listing it is because I'm like, I don't even know how I can make this happen. Like,
we'll
so then I
try
just feel silly.
We'll try and see, right? Because there's other things that you can do too, right? Say they give you 30%, right? And you go, hey, I can handle payments on 30%, right? And say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I can give you 25% down. You're going to keep the extra five for making payments and whatever else you need to currently, right? Or whatever it is, right? You can structure it however you want. And you go, Mr. Seller, I can give you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can give you 25% down. And then I want to develop this, but can I pay you the rest after we develop? Or, hey, would you be willing to allow me to develop your land and then pay you on the back end, right? And so then now all of a sudden you have a loan for 20, 30% of the piece of land. And now you can negotiate, hey, no payments until the construction is done. So there are definitely ways that you can like get around it. You just have to be super creative about it. It's more comes down to trying to figure out what does the seller need, what like the purchase price, what the terms are, and then if you can find bank financing and or private money lenders or whoever it is. And I'm happy to like help you figure that piece of it out too, because that's oftentimes the hardest piece of it. Private money lenders, when you find a good one, you hold them close and you try and give them as many deals as you can, because they are the ones who will give you more than 20, 30% of the value. But there are ways to get around that piece too. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal, it's a good deal, it'll get money, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, off market. All right, your question essentially with off market was how to approach them. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then if they think it's worth way more than it's actually worth, right? Like,
My 5 acres is worth $1 million.
yes,
Like, no,
exactly,
your
which I
5 acres is
heard
actually
through the
worth.
neighbors. It's what he thinks. I'm like,
Yep. Yeah. So I get that a lot, right? Everyone thinks their land is worth way more, right? Just like
yeah,
everyone thinks their house is worth $1 million, even if it's only worth 500,000, right? Or 300,000, right? Oh, it's worth $1 million, right? So I hear that a lot. Most of the time, what I'll do is whenever I have a seller who is kind of stuck on an extraneously high purchase price or what they evaluation of what they think that is, I normally try and educate them and break it down as to what creates value and what detracts from value, right? So what creates value? Proximity to a city center, right? closeness to a highway, but not too close to a highway, right? You're right on a highway that actually drops the value. But if
Yeah.
you're right off of the highway, a mile off the road, that might increase the value, right? So
Mhm.
water features can increase the value, right? A pond, a creek, a stream going through the property can certainly increase the value. Having a buildable site can increase value. Having a swamp can decrease value, right? So I try and educate them on what exactly is there. And then also if they still aren't quite like well, yeah, that's great, but I still want $1 million. Okay, well, here's what I can offer you, right? Here's a certain purchase price I can offer you. Here's what approximately what other people's parcels are actually selling for. And here's what I can offer you, knowing too that like I can't offer you full market price because this is how I make a living. If I pay full market price, I won't make any money. If I don't make any money, I can't make a living, right? And that's what I'm doing is
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a living off this land. And most people are pretty sensible. They understand that, right? Like when you go to buy a car, right? Do you expect the car salesman to lose money on that car? And that dealership to lose money. I mean, everyone hopes they lose money on the car, right? Because they're
Yeah.
like, screw the car dealer, right? But in
Yeah.
all reality, right? Like they have to make a profit somewhere as well, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not a it's something that people oftentimes need to be reminded of is like, hey, just so you're aware, like this is approximately what market value is. This is what I can pay you because I have to make money in between two, and it costs money to sell the property and to get rid of the property and to hold on to the property. And if they still don't get it, I'll break down numbers and shoot and send them an offer. And then sometimes it sits in their inbox, sometimes it sits in their mailbox. Sometimes that piece of mail goes right into the garbage. Like, you can only lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? And so normally what I try and do whenever a seller's really stuck on a certain high price point, I'll just educate them around it. Hey, this is what I see the market going for. And like this is approximately what your property would actually go for. If you really want that high of a price, like you should probably just list it on the market, but know that that price is probably going to take you 12 plus months to sell. And you're
Okay.
gonna have people walking through your land and all sorts of stuff and showings and this and that and whatever, right? So
Yeah.
if you want that, like go do it. You know? But that's normally how I kind of work around that piece of it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Does that help?
So when you start with a letter though,
You
if
can.
it's not on market.
In my case, yes, I do mail. That's one of my marketing channels is mail.
Okay.
So that's what I go to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I get that all the time. Hey, I want way inflated value. Yep, no
Okay.
problem. Like, I unfortunately I won't be able to get your price. I won't be able
Yeah.
to buy your land for that price. The reason being is because the market really just doesn't dictate that high of a price. And if you want that high of a price, like you should probably just list it on the market.
Yeah.
And some people get really mad and hang up, and then other people understand that, and then you can start talking to them and figure out what's a logical piece.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but I mean, just take swings at it, Casey. I can tell you're hesitant. Just take swings at it.
Yeah.
Take
Okay.
if you're nervous about it, Casey. Another thing too that you can do, especially too if you're nervous about something being like really close to you and like you don't want to like mess it up. You're not going to mess it up, by the way, just so you know. But if you
Okay.
don't want to quote unquote mess it up. What I tell people is go find a piece of land that maybe fits somebody else's buy box, myself or somebody else, and go call on that in a different market.
Okay.
Get your reps in that way, right? Call a few people. The first phone call you make is going to be super nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
The second one is half the nerves. The third one is half of that. Fourth one is half of
Okay.
that, right? And eventually that nervousness, like you'll pick up the phone and be like, all right, cool. Hey, how's it going? Tell me about your land. Oh, okay. Yeah, it probably won't work. Okay, no problem. whatever, right? And eventually you can start picking up on what works and what doesn't. But you can do it. You can do it. I wish you were here on Monday because we had we had we had was it Monday? Was it yeah, Monday. Um Another lady, Cynthia, came in here and she was like, "Yeah, I got this off market or I got this on market property I want you or off market property I want you to take a look at." And I didn't realize, but she was like typing in her phone. She was dialing the seller at like as she was like describing what it was. And she's like, "Yeah, do you want to talk to the seller?" I mean, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." And all of a sudden I hear ring, 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 and I'm like, "Okay,
Gosh.
I don't have any background of what's going on, but okay, let's do it." And so we ended up just doing a seller call. But that was like the epitome though, of just like just do it.
Jumping in.
Don't think,
Yeah.
just do it. But yeah,
Okay.
awesome.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I got one more request though. I need both of you to smile because Mark left us. I think Mark left us, and I need a photo here. All right. Oh, he's there. Good. Awesome. All right, everyone smile because this is going up on the page.
That's
Love it.
great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, Sam.
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for coming. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the goal is to do that. Next week I am in Germany for work, so I am going to do my best. I have no idea what time change is, but I
Oh,
will do my
wow.
best. And if I can't make it, I will send out an email
Where in
to all you
Germany are
guys.
you going?
I'm going to Hamburg,
Oh,
Germany. Yeah,
I
my
used to live
background.
in I used to live in Munich, so
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my yearly fix of Wiener Schnitzel. It's gonna be great.
Oh God, the bratwurst too. 100%.
Yes. Yeah. My background is physical therapy. That's what my doctorate's in, and I have a contract with Team USA. So I go out and fly out all over the world, literally, and treat Olympians and future Olympians for a week, and then get them ready for a race, and then they race, and then we all fly back home. So I normally go on like 2 to 3. I think most I went on was 4 in one year. So it's one of my two this year. Went to Uzbekistan about 2 months ago, and then Hamburg. So should be
Fun.
good.
Enjoy
Oh,
your
that's
trip.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, kind of a cool little side gig, if you will.
Yes,
It's
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome.
Hamburg 7 hours ahead, so
Oh, there you go.
do with
Perfect.
that with what you want. Monday
Yeah,
might be rough.
yeah, yeah. The morning one might be a little rough. But we'll see. I also too, unfortunately, I'm at the helm of all the athletes. So if they need something, I have to go. I can block an hour for like office hours or something like that, but otherwise though I gotta kind of be more at their beck and call. But yeah. But anyways, I'll let you guys know if for whatever reason I'll send out an email about it. But otherwise though, thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And have a happy hump day. And I will see you guys on Friday if you want to come join. You should come join.
For sure. USA.
Okay,
FIFA.
USA. All right. See you
thank you.
guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks.